guys, Jeff, and welcome to today's video. So I get a lot of flack from you guys sometimes that I always talk about things that I like and not so much about things that I don't like. So today we're going to review this Vee H-Billie tire and I'm going to tell you why I fucking hate it. Now this is the rear tire that was on my Rad Rover until yesterday. It's a 26 by 4.25 inch tire size. It's 120 TPI silica compound tire. It was sold to me mostly to be like a winter tire kind of deal. I've been running it for the past 1200 kilometers through every season and I can kind of tell you about my experience so far. Now I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this tire is ripped apart. The side is completely split last night, causing an explosion of the tube that was inside it, and it's been a real mess. So I'm going to talk to you about my experience with the tire, why I got it, the reason why I think it sucks in all conditions, and why I would recommend anyone not to purchase one of them. Now I got the H-Billie for my Rad Rover last year after about 1200 kilometers on the stock Kenda, because the Kenda that I had on there, the Juggernaut, was just completely bald. It was getting pretty late in the season too, and sometimes I was afraid that I would get a patch of, let's say, a little slippery mud or a bit of ice even sometimes, and the Kenda was so bald that I would just veer off the side and fall off my bike. So I decided to get a last minute tire. I ended up going to the bike shop and they had one of those left in the inventory. I got it for like 90 bucks and I figured it was a good enough deal, and it was considered to be like almost a winter tire, and so I decided to purchase it. The deal was there and I got it, and right off the bat I didn't really like the tire. The first thing that I noticed when I got it was that it was very squishy. It would go like like very rubbery squishy feeling, which I didn't really like, but I figured that's the compound, that's what it's gonna do. The Kendas never really did that, so I was not expecting that when I originally got it. Also, the feeling of the tire wasn't very good. When I had my Kenda on my Rad Rover, it felt fairly sure-footed, whereas this thing, you never really knew what it was gonna do, and that was a recurring theme that held throughout in the entirety of its life. And then the third thing that I noticed immediately was that it was very, very prone to flat tires. So with my Kenda, my front tire, I actually never had a flat on it. It's got 2400 kilometers now, 0 flats on that tire. On the original Kenda that I had, again, it did 1200 kilometers, 0 flats with that tire. This thing in its first 50 kilometers had 2 flats. Part of that, of course, can be attributed to the fact that the tube inside it didn't have any slime at the time. So after my second flat, I realized that the bike shop didn't put any slime in it. I went and bought some slime, put it in, and it was a little better. But I would say on average, I had about 1 flat per 100 kilometers with this tires, whereas with the Kendas, in 2400 kilometers in the front and 1200 in the rear, had 0 flat tires. The flat tire situation was, of course, ultimately the undoing of this tire. Yesterday, I was riding down the street at about 30 kilometers an hour, and I heard a huge explosion. The tire went completely fat immediately. I was lucky that I was on a flat and I was able to brake using the front brakes only and get to a stop safely before something happened. The tire had ripped open. The tube inside it, of course, tried to snip out of it because there was no tire to protect it at this point there. It just blew up and everything went off. So that's kind of been my experience with the Vee H-Billie. I've asked a couple of people that are much more experienced bikers than I am. My old boss, for example, he used to do like 5,000-6,000 kilometers of road and dirt biking every year, and he's told me that Vee tires are pretty consistently bad, and that is kind of the experience I've had with this tire. So I figured now I'd just give you some of my thoughts in categories. So in the dry, the grip was pretty average. It was never as good as my Kenda Juggernauts, the ones that came with the Rad Rover. In the dirt, it never felt as sure-footed as the Kendas did as well, although it felt a little closer in the dirt to the Kendas than it did in the dry. In the snowy conditions, I never thought that the grip was all that amazing. Then again, I have nothing to compare it against and I'm not a very good rider, so I'm expecting someone who would have more experience riding with the snow might have a different opinion on it, but to me it was never really that great in the snow either. I never really rode it in the heavy rains. I rode it in light rain and light wet conditions, and it was about on par with what I experienced in the dry. Kind of average, maybe a little beneath my Kenda Juggernaut. As far as durability goes, the thread on it is still pretty not bad. I mean, compared to my Kenda, it would probably have lasted a couple 100 kilometers more as far as the thread is concerned. However, the compound I think is really inferior, which is why it was always prone to flats, which is why it was always squishy and loud, which is why ultimately it just ripped open like that on the street for no reason. Now, obviously it's fairly warm right now in Rimouski, about 30 degrees Celsius in the day, which is more than you can expect. This being like a more winter oriented compound, I figured the tire was probably not at its best performing temperature when the explosion happened. Also, I'm a pretty heavy guy. I'm still about 300 pounds, so I was probably giving it a little more load than it was really designed for. And of course, since I'm a pretty big guy, I have to inflate my tires pretty heavily. So I usually go between 22 and 24 PSI of inflation. And maybe that combined with my weight, combined with the temperature, made a combination for disaster that made it rip open like that. So anyways, guys, I hope you found this video useful and interesting. Now, obviously with the COVID situation and all the shortages everywhere, I'm not going to be able to get new tires for my bike anytime soon. soon. I've got some on order right now, and it looks like Amazon will be able to ship me some tires on July 18th. So I'm expecting at the end of the month I should be able to make another video showing you the tires that I've got and the other changes that will entail. So I'm probably not going to be riding very much in the next couple weeks, so there are probably not going to be a whole lot of e-bike videos coming up in the pipeline for a couple weeks. Once I get that resolved, obviously you'll have a whole new lot of content. I'll be able to show you the installation, what I'm doing. My thoughts on the new tires, I think you're going to be pretty pleased with the review that I'm going to be bringing you for my next tires. The next set that's going to be coming is going to be pretty cool. And with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I will see you Sunday for the next music video, and take care.